Fear over the war in Ukraine spreading beyond those borders. Defence spending has risen across Europe since Russia's invasion, with Germany making rearmament a priority and announcing that it's going to work rapidly to set up 1 million underground bunkers or shelters for people in case of attack, an attack that it says could come within the next 5 years. Indeed, Germany's chief of defence says Russia could be in a position to launch a large-scale attack against a NATO territory by 2029. EU citizens have already been advised to have survival kits ready. So is Europe headed for an all-out war? Well, to give us his insight, we're joined by former Vice Chief of Staff at the Supreme Headquarters of Allied Powers Europe at NATO and Professor at the Paris School of International Affairs, Mr. Michel Yakovleff. Thanks so much for your time. Can I start simply by asking you, should we be scared?
We are only scared to the degree that we are unprepared. If the Western powers of Europe actually realize that they have much more military potential than Russia in the medium term, then we wouldn't be scared. We just need to rebuild our defense to the degree where it will deter Russia.
But do you think this Russian threat is imminent? Do you think it has the means to attack? And where might it attack in that case?
Well, currently, and praise be to Ukraine, they don't have the means to attack meaningfully anywhere else. They're already heavily engaged with Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine is currently doing the defense of Europe and NATO from 2014, by the way, not 2022. So they're a bit too busy. So Ukraine is buying time for us. Which means two things. The first thing is that we owe Ukraine. It's not an act of generosity to support Ukraine. It's a strategic calculation. And the second point is that the time that Ukraine is buying for us should be put to good use. And the better use is offensive capabilities, which are more of a deterrent to Russia than defensive capabilities.
So what do you make of Germany's recent announcements, that it's going to work on rearmament and set up all these bunkers? What do you read into that?
Well, I hope it's not a contradiction in terms between rearming and digging in. The degree of protection that you'd need to protect a meaningful part of the population under threat is staggering, actually. So I don't see that. Now, they may have their own reasons, and they are better at doing their own calculations than I am at doing it for them. But basically, you don't defend by digging holes and hiding your population. That's not enough. So, excuse me, there's an opportunity cost. I mean, the more bunkers you build, bunkers are very expensive, by the way. The more bunkers you build and the less tanks and artillery and long-range strike capability and all that, the less you're deterring.
But the
best case...
Sorry, I was just saying the cost of I mean, we've heard the calls from the United States that they want countries to spend more in NATO and up their defence spending. But of course, that comes at a massive, massive cost.
It comes at massive cost because for 30 years we underinvested. So we're back into, we must reinvest what we did not invest for 30 years. That's the degree of being massive. But I say again, what we need is offensive capabilities, deep strike and all that, that would make an attack on us painful to Russia, as opposed to being capable of taking more blows for a completely unprepared population.
And of course, since Donald Trump came back to the White House, he seems to be more in support of Moscow than previous administrations. I mean, has that emboldened Russia, do you think?
Well, definitely so. I mean, it's the first time that we have a US president who's actively ceding for the adversary. It's the first time. I mean, until then, we were blessed with presidents like Roosevelt, who actually did not believe that Hitler was his best friend. Currently, the worst threat to NATO is Trump. it's not Putin.
It does sound like the future is pretty bleak. I mean, we need to repair military. It sounds like the threat is a very, very real one for Europe.
The threat is real to the degree that the Putin regime survives. The Putin regime is on well, it was having real problems in November last year until the election gave it, wind to its sail. Until then, it was doing not well at all. We've got to plan on a long-term adversarial Russia, whether Putin or not. But the Putin regime is weaker than the public generally believes, and for sure, Putin's Russia will be deterred by an offensive European capability as opposed to digging more bunkers.
Okay, so Europe needs to stand together and react. Currently, it supports Ukraine, but what different needs to be done on that front?
Yeah, well, it supports Ukraine. It does, but not enough. And, Ukraine, it's a story of too late every time since 2014, actually. So we've got to build up our industrial base, which is happening. I mean, there are encouraging signs. Europe is building up its industrial base, defense base, honestly. But for example, it's not procuring enough. It's not contracting enough for the missiles that we know we will need. So until now, all those pledges about all that money and we're going to do this and that, I'm not saying it's hot air, but it's air not hot enough to meet the requirement. That's where we are now.
And as for the war in Ukraine, I mean, we've had multiple rounds of peace talks. We're hearing that, they'll talk again. How do you see that ending? It doesn't look like Russia's willing to give anything up.
Putin is not ready to give anything up because he believes since November last year that he's won the war. So why would he stop it? It's as simple as that. Once or if the US changes its stance significantly, I mean, to be honest, completely reverses course and tells Putin, you're in the medium to long run, you're not going to win this one, because the Western world is united and will apply secondary sanctions so that you can't sell your oil and all that. If Putin discovers that Trump is not his best friend, it will change his political calculation. Until now, since November, Putin has been massively encouraged by every signal sent from Washington.
Okay, Michel Yakovleff, we'll have to leave it there, but thanks so much for joining us and giving us your insight here on France 24. Very much appreciated.